Now, have you introduced it, no?
Yeah. Hello, I'm Michael Ryan. I'm here in the City Council with Joe Malone, and it's the 11th of the 4th, 2011. And we're going to have a discussion about ranks. So Joe, how did you join ranks?
I went into ranks in 1950 as a casual labourer, or a daily boy as we refer to it. That was 1950. Ranks then would have been 10 years old. It was built. It was built in 1940. It was a magnificent big mill, but it replaced many other small mills. For instance, there was a mill in Croom, which was a mill wheel driven, an undershod mill, and the difference between an undershod and an overshod wheel is an undershod comes from the stream,
right,
and an overshod the water pours down on top of it.
Yeah.
So hence undershod and overshod. That was an undershod. It was a stream in Croom. They came in then into Francis Street. Now this is all predating the main mill in Shannon Mills, which was a big modern mill. But Croom Mills came into. They did a very small bit of milling done in Francis Street. It was owned by a man called Martin Maguire, who was also a city councillor. A bit of a character he was too. Indeed he was.
How was he?
Well, he was a big man, and he was a very volatile sort of very volatile kind of a councillor, you know. And but that was Crew Mills, and also of course you had again a small mill, which Carbley Mill. Now Carbley Mill was at the end of what is still known as the Mill Road, which comes off the main Carbley Road at the traffic lights beyond Gus Driscoll's pub down that street. That's the Mill Road. Well, that was Carbley Mills, where my father served his time to be a stone dresser. And that, if you look up there, there is an actual mill race, which is man-made, which comes slightly off the Shannon, and there are steps there, and the steps are when the water got a bit too high, the water would lap over, you see, because you needed a constant flow of almost steady, near as enough as could possibly. You had very little control over it, except that there was a kind of a sluice gate there, where you racked off the water when it got too strong. You racked it off. There was a big, and you racked it back out. And then what I mean by racking is you reduced the force of the mill stream, because if the mill stream was going too fast, the wheel would go too fast, and the wheel in turn would drive other pulleys too fast, and you throw the whole thing out of.
Yeah.
You know, where you're supposed to, so many revs per minute drives one wheel, and so many revs drives the second wheel, and if the revolutions got a bit too much, it would throw the whole thing out of gear. It would also have a bad effect on the stone. Now remember, that was a stone mill, and it would also have a bad effect on the stone, because the stone was one on top of the other, and they were about 2 millimeters apart, I think, roughly, and they were almost touching. And if you threw them out of gear, if they weren't going dead level, you would wear the stone, and you couldn't afford to wear the stone, because wearing of the stone would affect the actual grist. Now we are talking now pre-white flour.
Did your father get you the job in Rinks?
He did, yeah.
And you started there in 1950?
1950, yeah.
And what was Ranks like to work in? What age were you when you started working?
18.
First job, so after school, was it?
No, I had 5 years done before.
Oh, had you?
I worked in a shoe shop. I worked for Ed Sullivan's shoe shop, and then I went from there across to the Savoy.
Well, that's, yeah.
So I sent him in Bedford Row.
Yeah, that's great. We can talk about that now after.
I worked for 5 years there.
That's brilliant.
Now, you're not interested in all this kind of pre-introducing, you know? Are you just... I'm introducing the whole getting onto
No, we are. We just
yeah.
we just want to talk about ranks first.
Right. Yeah, but I will be talking about that eventually. I'm leading up, linking in.
Oh, that's grand. Whatever. That's perfect. No bother.
I'm linking up to I'm telling you all the mills that were there, that ranks that Shannon Mills replaced.
Yeah. No, oh, that's brilliant, Jack. Keep going, so if you want.
You see, that will give me a link up. And then, of course, there was a mill at Grove Islands. Now, you're familiar with which was called Lock Mills, which was on the canal. Which, if you were going down Sir Harry's Mall, where the Absolute Hotel is.
Yeah.
If you look across at the Absolute, there's a little an island. That was Lock Mills. There was also a millstone there, which is similar, but it was less economical than Corbally, because often on the tide you would have to stop that mill with the tide. It was a tidal setup, you know. It wasn't as economical. My uncle worked there, and one of his last apprentice there was a man called Joe Spencer, who was one of the first men I met in Shannon Mills. He was his apprentice. That closed about 1936, roughly around that time. It was built in 1844 by John Norris Russell. So then, of course, there was the most famous one of all is Plassey Mills. Because when I say Plassey was famous, the first official, the word I came across was official, and I think they were in a union very early. The Plassey Mill was up at the top. There's a bit of it left up at the Black Bridge, up where the college is.
University of Limerick.
University of Limerick, yeah. And the men there, when I said that was famous, that was a strike took place. They wanted walking up money they lived in the city, so they had to walk up the canal, the bank, and the strike was settled. But they had an interesting facet of it, and it was they had pigeons. Right, and it was a very small mill, and their store, where they stored the raw grain, was at the back of where the Franciscan church is now, at Lower Bedford Row. On your right hand side there going down, there was a warehouse in there, and they would leave off pigeons. They kept the mill at Plassey, kept the pigeons belonging to the pigeon house at the back of the Franciscans.
Yeah.
So they'd leave them off, and the pigeon would naturally fly to its own home, and there would be messages on the pigeon's legs.
No way.
What kind of, or how much bags of grain they needed, because they had no store up.
Are you serious?
Yeah, I am serious.
Did that work?
Of course it did. Did you not hear the Taubenpost is what the Germans call it, the Taubenpost. The Germans used it as long before wars and all.
That's very interesting.
Yeah, there's a hint recently, I don't know, I've read it someplace, that people are using it to bring drugs onto pigeons' legs. I don't know how.
I heard of it.
Now you're hearing it now.
Is that what they're doing in Limerick, is it?
But you know, it's not the pigeon house in Dublin.
Yeah.
You haven't heard the pigeon house in the famous area in Dublin. But that's what a pigeon house is. The Germans were the first to use it. They used it as a post. The Germans called it the Taubenpost. Pigeon's post. It was their way of sending messages in various places.
Yeah.
So that's how the Plassey mill was. And they, anyway, they all closed down. And then you had Newtown Perry Flour Mill, which is next to the Garda Barracks there, was next to, that's Mill Lane down there. The Newtown Perry Mill was there, and Rocha Street was at the top of Rocha Street on the right hand side. That belonged to Rocha's naturally, and Newtown Perry was Bannatyne's. That's where, and they became modern flour milling. Now flour milling had advanced in Germany and England. It was no longer just crushing the meal down and selling it out like wholemeal is today, but they refined it. So Newtown Perry was a modern mill, as was Rocha Street. So Ranks bought a lot, bought the two of them. He came to Ireland and shut them down. And there were two very beautiful modern mills. Newton Perry was a beautiful mill made by Simons of Manchester, and Rochdale were the makers of the mill up in Rocher Street. So he shut the two of them down and built Shannon Mills, which was in 1940.
Oh, the Dock Road.
That's the Dock Road. Now the two of them, there were two massive big mills, and there was a great, I always felt there was a kind of a B mill was Rocher Street, and A mill was Newton Perry, and they were politically divided. B mill was solid Republican, solid Fianna Fáil became, and Newton Perry was solid Labour and blue shirt, if you like, or Fine Gael. So the two mills were side by side below, but they never really got on. There was always a bit of A mill and B mill, and A mill considered, the A mill made one type of flour and B mill made another type of flour. But that's how Shannon Mills came about. It was built on a quarry. So that's where we all went to work. I went to work there, and my father worked there, and my uncles worked there, and my sisters worked there in the sack store.
How many of your sisters worked?
There was one, two. I had three sisters, and 1, 2, and 3 brothers.
Oh, were you working there for long? How many years?
I was 25 years there.
What was the atmosphere like around the place?
It was an exciting place to work.
Was it?
It was, yeah. Exciting people. We had a soccer team, a hurling team, a rugby team, and the rugby team took part in. There was a great rugby competition took place in the 1953, I think, during on Toastal, which was a festival that was held in Limerick. I think it was held all over Ireland, but
right.
Ranks took part in that with the pork butchers, the timber yards, the dockers. So that was a great thing. We all took part in that sort of thing. I remember going to play in a hurling, but I was only watching a spectator, down to Thurles to play the sugar factory. And on the team there was the son, Billy McInerney was in goal, his father was out the field, so we had a son and father playing. We had, and we also had a choir. I think I mentioned that. We had a choir, and we broadcast. We did concerts in the Savoy with the No. 2 Army Band, and we did lots of. We sang with a great Madame Elaine Pax, which was always a joke in Ranks. But we had inter-department soccer matches going on, you know.
Did you do any work up there at all?
No, we
practiced.
Sport? A friend of mine said to me, it wasn't Ranks, Joe, he said, that you worked in it all, but RADA, the Royal Academy of Dramatic Art.
Brilliant.
No, I remember when things would get quieter around 4 o'clock in the afternoon in the warehouse, someone would say, well, we'd have choir practice.
After work?
No, during work. Well, we'd have a choir practice.
You singing away while you're working?
No, we'd be finished working.
Right.
But there's 28 singers actually, with 16 tenors and 10 basses.
Did you sing?
I did, yeah. I was a bass.
Did you play the sport as well?
I played soccer, and we were in the tops of the town. It was a very lively, entertaining place, you know.
Real kind of family atmosphere, I'd say.
It was very family. Yes, some people had 7 and 8 in there, you know. There was 5. There was 4 or 5 of the Wire brothers, And as a matter of fact, one of them, Dinny, his granddaughter, sang at Ground Zero with Barbara Streisand.
Did not?
Yeah.
Oh.
Dinny's granddaughter. And his brother Dasher had a dance hall out in the Fogaballa, they called it. It's still standing out in Ballysimon. So you had big families, you know. A lot of us came in then from the country, from places like Askeaton. So it was really a family job, you know. But having said that, Mercer, who was the boss, you know, he tried to break the family bond and the family. So
did he?
He did.
Why?
He tried. Well, I don't know, was it annoying him or were we getting a bit too rebellious? And the union was very strong there, you see, you know. Although we did have a strong union, we only had one strike in my lifetime. There was rarely strikes on there, you know, because the company would meet the company in the union would meet every month, and then ironed out any problems. But Mercer tried to break it, but he introduced a height. You had to be interviewed by Mercer. He was a magnificent character.
Okay.
He was indeed. He was you thought he was a bit of an actor. You know, he was ex-British Army, of course. He was a major in the British Army, but he introduced a height, and he brought in a sort of a rod which you had to stand under. It was a measuring rod, you know. There was a vertical piece and a horizontal coming out, and someone said that he knew that we were all small, which we were all small. So he brought in the height, and Millman's sons wouldn't accept it because we weren't the height. He seems to have known we were all small. But anyway, that finished because the union put the boot in, and we all got back in there. But he was a bit of a character, you know.
What was his logic for getting taller workers?
No, it was to break the family tradition.
Yeah.
We were getting far too. I mean, there was 6 or 7 of us, you know, and naturally, where there was 6 or 7, there was going to be unity, you know.
Absolutely, yeah.
Unity of purpose. And
what was your main duties?
Well, I went to work there, and I got a bucket. I got a bucket and I got a bucket and a big cloth, and my first job was to wash windows.
Started off kind of at the bottom.
I was at the bottom for a long time.
Oh, yeah.
There was very few tops there for
yeah.
You went into a gang and you were loading cars, you know. Then you either went into the mill where you were cleaning machinery. The mill was a beautiful looking place. It's beautiful machinery and beautiful timber work, and pitch pine and Oregon pine and yellow pine. The mill they were beautifully kept, you know, spick and span. But it was but the company and Mercer, they got on well, you know. He was a bit of an actor, but they got on well, except there was one strange thing happened there in 1942. You see, it was during the war, and there was no white flour in Ireland. You know, we had to go back to making, because we couldn't import foreign grain, and you need foreign grain to make proper refined flour, white flour, as you know it, you see. And there was a monthly meeting, an extraordinary meeting called, and Lord Rank arrived in 104 O'Connell Street. 104, which was the residence of the old Protestant Bishop of Limerick, and it was now Rank's head office. And there was a sensitive situation to be discussed, and that was pilfering. The men were pilfering white flour.
Stealing it, is it?
Yeah.
Right.
And when the meeting was practically over, Mercer threw it a shot across. My old man was the chairman, across his bows he had to remind about the stealing of the flour that was going on, which he was right, it was. And it was being sold, and he was right, it was being sold. It was being bartered for bicycle tubes, which were gold, nylon stockings, which were, nylon was invented during the war. It's an artificial thing. They came across from England, and sugar and tea. Sugar and tea was rationed, you see, so we bartered the flour for the sugar, the tea, and we all had our...
Quite all of it.
I was involved in it. I was only 10.
That's the stuff.
I was only 10, and I used to...
You didn't know any better.
I didn't. I loved it. I didn't want to know any better. It was my life, and that was that. That was our life. So we did, and we also stole calico bags for sheets, and they were we made sheets, and of course there was Eclipse, Millocrat, and Sunrise, and Sunrise had a big, beautiful sun on it, a big, massive sun, and of course you'd be sleeping on those at night, and if you pissed in the bed, of course you'd have a print of the sun on your arse, you know? And there was, so anyway, let's get back to Mercer, but my old man anyway had something up his sleeve. He accused Mercer in front of Lord Rank of the bosses stealing coal from Newtown Perry was now a depot, and remember there was very little coal coming into the country. We had no merchant navy.
Yeah, because of the war.
Because we never had it. We still don't have a merchant navy.
Right.
So we got across occasionally and brought back, but Newtown Perry had been full with coal before the war, and the bosses were taking it, which was also stealing.
Yeah.
So my old man threw it across them. Rank, of course, got a shock, and Mercer got a shock. So there was a meeting finished up, and there was a private conversation, and the whole thing. Mercer withdrew his accusation. My old man withdrew his accusation.
Party politics.
So things been, but he didn't stop the knocking off.
Good.
No. It was a case of, want, you know.
Yeah.
And stuff. And there was a few people lost their jobs.
They were caught, were they?
They were caught, one or two, I think. And a fair dues to Mercer. You know, he had a certain compassion. He did bring back some of their sons later on in life. He never held it against them.
Yeah.
He also brought back, when I say brought back, you would be sacked for life if you were caught smoking. There were two people caught smoking, and the union wouldn't even bother defending you. But Mercer, he brought them back after a year being out of work. So he did have a certain, he loved the mill, and he loved middlemen's sons. And
did he smoke himself, no?
I don't think he ever smoked, no.
You weren't allowed to smoke all day
Oh
in
Jesus,
breaks or anything, no?
No, you could smoke in the lavatory.
Yeah.
You could go down to the toilet and smoke, you know, but you couldn't smoke in the mill. The warehouse, you know. Fellas often they take the odd puff, you know, because once you got any spark of a fire at all in the floor mill, it would go up, because it was all beautiful timber, you know, dry timber. And mills were known to go up. And although we had our own fire crew, we had 6 fire crews. I was a member of a fire crew. We fought Todd's Fire, the famous Todd's Fire.
Really?
Yeah, we had 6 crews, and we had our head man, Hefty O'Donnell.
Hefty?
Yeah, he was small. We called him Hefty. He was 4'7" or something. Well, we'd go for training. We'd have firefighting competitions. Once a year, and there'd be a cup put up for it. And
where was that?
It was held below the yard, you know. I was a branchman. There was you had a standpipe. Many in the crew. You had 2 at the standpipe, and you had 2 branchmen. You had 3. You had 5 in a crew, or 5 or 6. And once a year there'd be a competition, and you had to knock down these things that built up, you know.
With the hose?
With the hose. And, we were trained, every so often then you go for training in a hurry.
Well, did you rush up to that fire?
In Todd's?
Yeah, did someone ring you or what happened?
Yes, we got a ring. We went up on a truck, and we put down our standpipe, and we started, there was the mill shut down actually. The whole job shut down that day. Went to Todd's.
Did it?
Went to the raid, yeah. And we did our bit, and
Cool. And you were saying you were working in the Savoy Cinema as well?
Yeah.
You were there for 5 years,
I was, yeah.
And what did you do there?
I was a page boy.
What's that?
Well, a page boy come ticket seller. A little fellow with a I broadcast this kind of stuff on television and radio. And I went in there 1950. I was 4'7.5". I remember it well. I'd been working I was 13 when I went in there. 13 years and 7 months. I worked there until I was too old to be a page boy any longer.
Oh, I see, yeah.
I didn't grow much, I didn't grow a lot, but I grew out of my uniform and it was time for me to go, I worked there during the great variety years, when variety used to be on in the afternoon, when you had a movie or a picture, and then you had an hour and a half of live shows on stage. People like Eamon Andrews, used to appear there, and great Jimmy Eddy. All these names wouldn't mean much to you, you're too young, They all appeared there. We'd have Sunday night concerts, and with 1,500 people was the capacity. It was an absolutely beautiful cinema. It was built with a street in Venice in mind.
Was it?
Yeah. The roof was like looking up into the sky, and all along the sides were the most beautiful boxes, which were verandas, It was absolutely superb.
And there was a ballroom in the bar there, was there?
There was a ballroom.
Restaurant.
There was. There was no bar there. There was a wine license.
All right.
There was the ballroom there was a ballroom that there was in the lounge, but that finished when I went in. That finished about 48. So I opened around 35, I think. It was most of the decoration was done by Italians. The terrazza floor, which was quite new in Ireland then. There was a group of Italian workers came and stayed on into Dublin. They came and they built a terrazza floors, which are beautiful, and they and all the paint work was done by Italians. Very decorative, beautiful cinema, and they had 2 restaurants, of course, and a snack bar.
They were busy, were they?
Always, yeah, always. And then
did you rob from there? Did you steal anything from that place?
No, Jesus, no. I loved it. I loved it. I was the odd plate of chips, maybe. But that was built by a Jewish family called the Eddymans, and they sold it out then to a brother of rank who owned the mills. Joseph Rank was cinemas, Pinewood Studios he owned, and Odeon Theatres in London, and the Eddymans sold it, the Rank. And we all had to change our uniforms from black to lovely brass buttons to a wine colour, because that was the logo, and an O at the top of our pillbox hat. Joseph Rank bought it from the Eddymans, and I don't know when he closed it. I left in 1950, but the first strike ever took place was when I left in 1951.
They were striking because you left, was it?
No, they struck because for Sunday night, there was no pictures in Limerick on a Sunday night then,
All right.
No.
Because of work on Monday, is it?
No, oh Jesus, no. The bishop.
All right.
Oh, no. The bishop put the boot in. Bishop wouldn't allow it. Church wouldn't allow it.
Just because Sunday is a holy day?
Sunday was a holy day. We were like the North of Ireland. The North of Ireland they were closed down completely on Sundays, But then Sunday night movies came in 1951. It was the corporation actually. It was voted. It was 1-by-1 vote, and the man who voted for the opening of cinemas on a Sunday night was a bicycle mechanic called John Joe Connery. He worked in Nesters. He was a great man. Great Limerick family.
Yeah?
Yeah, great.
He worked in the pub, is it?
No. John Joe was a bicycle mechanic. He worked in Nesters. They had a bicycle shop in
right.
They were a great family. So that's just the way, you know.
What did the bishop think of that?
I forget, was it Murphy? Oh, no, Bishop O'Neill was involved. Bishop O'Neill. The corporation actually voted it in it, you know. He used to put the vote in, but the corporation were moving a little bit. We were getting more liberal. There was more working class men coming into the corporation. It was, in the old corporation, it was all middle class.
Yeah.
You had some workers in it, but they were, you know, they didn't have the same.
They were dodgy, were they?
They were. You had some.
There is everywhere, isn't there?
What?
There's a couple of them everywhere.
There is, yeah. So anyway, any more about ranks? Yes, there was. Okay, we're going back to ranks. Ranks, of course, was a great place for. We broadcast on Radio Ireland. Did I tell you that?
No, you didn't.
The choir. We did. Yeah, we broadcast on Radio Ireland, the choir. But it was a great place for nicknames, you know. And I remember one night the foreman, Jim Maguire, asked one of the lads on night work to go down and give him a list of, check around and see who was in, you know, see what kind of his crew was. And Fancy Light said he was a bit of a wit, to say him, for a bit of a character. He came up to Maguire, and Maguire was a very easygoing man, you know. Well, Fancy says, who have I? Well, there's Small Pud and there's Big Pud. There's the Fox Terrier, there's Mucka, there's the Hawk, and there's the Goose. Jesus Christ, Fancy said, tell me, is it a farm, he said, or a zoo? They were all the nicknames for it. It was a great place for...
Two Puds are brothers, were they?
The two Puds, Big Pud and Small Pud. They were two very nice characters, two weightlifters.
Were they?
And the Hawk.
How did he get his name?
He always appeared like a hawk. A very lovely man, of course. Lovely man.
How did he appear like a hawk?
I don't know, I never knew how half them got their names. The warehouse was a great place for putting names on people. And the fella called Eddie O'Doherty, he was gifted. He could put a name on a fella like that.
So it's stick then?
Oh yeah. Oh, you were called that.
Did you have one?
Oh, I had one for a very short time. And it was Fancy Liza who put it on me. Esso, he called me. And of course there was an ad out for Esso oil, you know.
Yeah.
And it was a fella singing the Toreador song.
Right.
And he had a bit of a cap on his head, and I had an old cap like him, so I got the name Esso for a very... It didn't stick, you know. I think it was a bit too serious, you know. I didn't... You
didn't like it, no?
No, I didn't mind. Oh, geez, you couldn't. Oh, no, you'd have to... No matter what you were called, you'd have to accept it. Oh, you couldn't react. Oh, no, you accepted it. So there was, as I was telling you early on, there was my uncle worked. When I went to work in Ranks, then there was a lot of men there knew me and knew my family, you know, and I felt very welcome there. There was one man called Joe Toohey. He worked in Lockmills with my uncle. He was a foreman, and he would be Garroda Toohey's uncle, who is the great historian in Galway. And he'd also be a granduncle to Una Brommel, who's a historian. Mary I. She had two uncles working here, granduncles, the Tooheys. They were famous school of dancing, of course, as well. But that Una Brommel's grandfather taught me at Crayland School, Mick Toohey. So they were all mill people. They came from Ladies Lane, which is one of the most famous thoroughfares in Limerick City at one stage, even though it's only about 5 or 6 feet in width. It's just it's still in Dominic Street. It's still, it unites Dominic Street with Parnell Street.
Right.
And it's still standing. And a lot of very famous people came out of that whole lane. Actually, they call it Ladies Lane, but someone told me that it's the real name for it is Our Lady's Lane, because there was a statue found. There is a statue in the Dominican, which is, I'm not too sure, but I think they found it in the old Dominican University, which is below King's Island, which is St Mary's Convent School. The wall of it is still standing. Well, that was the original Dominican, and then they came from there up to Dominic Street. That's old Dominic Street down there.
Did all those people, did they cycle to work or did they walk down?
Oh, we all cycled, yeah.
No bikes being stolen or anything, no?
No, honest to God, you could borrow a bike, and we never locked them. And you could borrow a bike from fellas, and yeah, we cycled, we all cycled. We had 7 bikes, outside our door. And you could leave them there, as sure as God. Now you hear you hear people saying you could leave your door open, you know?
Yeah.
But someone had some wit crack, but of course he says you could leave your door open. We had nothing to rob, he said. But you actually could leave your bikes outside pubs, and you get the odd one knocked off, you know. But we all cycled. Then eventually fellas our wages increased and fellas bought cars. But by and large we all cycled. And a lot of people walked. People walked in from Killeely. And there was a particular time there when tuberculosis was quite rampant in the city, you know. Rampant all over Ireland, of course. A big van pulled in one day, a mobile X-ray van. And there was a good few people you had a spot in the lung, which was tuberculosis. So there was a few people had to go to the sanatorium.
They were taken away from work, were they?
Well, no, they'd go and visit their GP, and they'd have more X-rays done, and then they'd be sent after them. We had a good few workers sent to the San. Yeah.
Were they there for long?
A year, some 2.
Did they get their jobs back?
Oh yes, well, that was another interesting about getting your job back.
Not the union, was it?
Oh well, no. Well, there was a certain compassion there for.
Right.
There was always. You never lost your job. I was a year out sick with a bad leg, and I got my job back. So you just walk back, and there was always a certain mutual feeling of love and respect between worker and foreman, and there was never really any strong animosity there, you know.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, the First World War, all the men who came back after the First World War all got their jobs back. Because we weren't at war, we were under the British then. Well, all those men got their jobs back. Now, my father was ex-Free Stater, and himself and the union got together. Well, they said when we had what we referred to as the emergency, which was the Second World War, but we called it the emergency. My old man and a few more of the union got together and they said, well, a lot of men left and joined the British Army in the 40s, and they were all guaranteed their jobs back. As a matter of fact, one guy went to work in went to South Africa, and he got his job back. He came back about 30 years later, and his job was waiting for him.
Wow.
But my old man then and the crew got together. Well, look, if you're going to do it for the men going to join the British Army, if they get their jobs on return, you'll have to do the same. So the Irish Army then, a lot of people joined the Irish Army, so when the emergency was over, they all came back to work.
So your father must have been a popular man in Limerick, was he?
Well, he was a kind of a politician. He was in the union, you know.
Yeah.
And he used to go for the Labour Party. And he was a member of the Joint Industrial Council. He used to go to Dublin out for meetings, you know. But he wasn't the only trade unionist. There was all Georgie Ryan and Jack Buckley, Kevin O'Connor and Dan Clancy. They were all brought up with republicanism and with the union, you know. And it was a great unionised job, you know. But then again, you had to go back then to City of Roller Mill. They had a very active IRA unit up there back 1916.
Did they?
Oh yeah, very active, yeah. It was by like, it was the saddest thing. Well, it was one of the saddest days of my life when I passed up the union. I was gone out of the place when it closed, you know. I take my redundancy. But to say that ranks couldn't believe it was closing down, you know. Could not believe it.
Did you know that it was closing before it closed? Or did it just
well, I have
suddenly?
My information would be a bit scanty, you know. They were warned that if things didn't, you know, it was when it closed in '83, I think.
There was rumours, was there?
There was rumours, yeah. No one. There's lots of opinions why it closed, you know, but
like Dell and Limerick, isn't it? There was
like
rumours.
Dell was, yeah. But,
Dell
but
was
we
big
were
loss.
we were an institution.
Yeah.
I'm talking about hundreds of years. I'm talking about 6 or 7 generations of people. Generations of us worked in all belonged to us worked in flour mills. We could go back generations. The whole feeling between the good bodies and which were a local family, the Bannatynes and the Russells, and the feeling between worker and boss or mill owner was always good. They actually built Bishop Street. The owners of the flour mills and the Protestant community had a share in it, because the Bishop Street, which is down in St Mary's Parish, they were all built for flour mill workers, and a lot of foremen and bosses who were Church of Ireland people, they all had houses. But when the place was shut down and all the assets were sold off, all these people, with the exception of the workers, had to leave their houses. Some of the foremen who were there for generations. But the workers didn't. They were paying the rent, you see. The houses for the bosses were all free. It was that kind of a family job, you know.
Must have been a massive shock to the city when it
was a terrible shock.
Yeah.
Just couldn't believe it. Like the pork butchers, you know. Pork butchers are big in the city, you know. They had a band and they had, you know, they were marvellous. Yeah, it was an awful shock. And we had all the timber yards, of course. But ranks, of course, was there's a drying grain then for a lot of outside mills, you know. And you'll be very busy for the autumn season. And the city was full of all small stone warehouses. And they'd be similar to, if you go up Roches Street, there is a big stone warehouse there, and it goes into Ann Street, and Ann Street unites Thomas Street with Roches Street, and the name Ann is Ann Roche. It was called after the Roches. They also there's a little laneway up there which also unites Thomas Street and Roches Street, and it's called Roches Row. Flour mill workers lived in there. The houses are still, there are 5 lovely little houses still in, and it's only a little narrow laneway. And I used to know a family who lived in there, you know, and they said, well, I live in Roches Row. You don't, they said. You live in Bowdy's Lane. That was the nickname.
Yeah.
So, it actually took up all of Roches Street Mill.
Did you miss working in ranks?
I did. I missed it. But I still visit people. A lot of us are dead, you know. A lot are dead. I meet very few now. But I did miss the place. I missed the fun, you know.
Must have been great.
Well,
going to work and
it was a home from home, you know.
Yeah. That's amazing.
And
every job should be like that.
And the affinity between foreman and worker was always good. There was you rarely called anyone Mister, you know. All the foremen were called by their Christian name. And the foreman would often refer to fellows would call them by their nicknames. Then, of course, there was when Mercer left, and the Cork Brigade became in. We were run. Then a lot of Cork men came down to run the mills. You know, they were the mill superintendent and the manager and so on. But they were a great bunch too.
Where were they from?
Cork.
Oh yeah.
They were an earthy bunch. Yeah. Lovely. Donald Donoghue, Declan Wallace, Hughie McSweeney, Mr. Morrison. Yeah.
Had you
Morrison.
Had you nicknames for them?
Well, we had. Donald Donoghue took over from, he was a gentleman too, he took over from Mercer. And he wasn't in the door 5 minutes, and they had 2 names on him. Brendan Behan. He was the image of Brendan Behan. And Nobber Donoghue. And Nobber stuck to him. And his foreman, I met one of them recently, they said Nobber is still alive.
You know who it was straight away?
Straight away, of course, yeah. He must be well over 80 now, you know. Oh yeah, Nobber, that's it. And he was there.
Did the women have nicknames down there?
There was one particular woman there, Lil Kerwin. She was 90 and she was still running the show. Lil Kerwin. She had about 40 of her relations in there.
Jeez.
Grandsons, great-grandsons.
She was still working?
And she was still working. She was a marvellous woman, Lil Kerwin.
What did she do down there?
She was in charge of the women. We had women there as well, you see. Women were cleaning bags and repairing bags, you know. Because ranks had their own sacks. Good Buddies made a sacks below in what was that place? Good Buddies. That is a sack company anyway. They made their own sacks, you know. But you had about, I think you had about 40 women working there, you know. But then we had a small packing department. We used to have women there as well. They were a great bunch. Constantly singing. From 8 in the morning you'd sing until 6 at night.
And was there anyone get married down there that met up down there?
Well, there was a good few got married, yeah. Oh yeah, yeah.
They met at work?
Met at work and they shacked up and what have you.
Fair play to them.
There was one particular man who used to work in the small packs, John Wallace. I got a postcard there from him recently. He used to come in from the university and work in the small packs, and he's now, the last time I heard of him, he was in New York. He's a professor of psychology in New York or someplace. But we had a lot of fellas used to come in from Brian Scanlon, the doctor up in John Square. He worked. A lot of young fellas would come in from the university then during the summertime, or from different schools, you know. And they'd work, which was very easy work to pick up, you know. All you had to have was, you had to be able to read and write and count, you know. Fellas, some people were just gifted at counting, don't they? There were people who could just look at a heap of bed. They were just gifted at counting.
But they could look at it?
Oh yeah, they could count, no problem.
They could see it?
They could see, yeah.
Oh. Were you any good at it?
I wasn't too bad. I wouldn't be putting myself up as a top dog now. I wasn't, you know. I'd be mediocre. Yes, the women were marvellous. So where are we now?
It's nearly the end now, Joe.
How'd you get an hour out of it?
Yeah.
Jesus.
That's the end of our interview. So, Joe, thanks very much.
That's not too bad.
Thank you. I
ran a pub in Limerick, and a fella came in to me called Pat Lade from Telefishern, and he said to me, I heard you said to me, you're a good talker. I am, but he said to me, there was a program used to go out. I did a bit of broadcasting. There was a program used to go out in Limerick every Wednesday night called Shannonside, and they lost the tape.
Oh shit.
So he said to me, we've lost the tape, will you come up? I said, alright. I said, I go up. So I was talking like I'm talking to you, and he said, maybe we were an hour and 5 minutes. An hour and 5 minutes.
Gone like that.
Gone.
Yeah.
So he edited the tape. Jim, I met the man who edited it last week. He edited the tape, and he got 37 good minutes out of it. But just me, we weren't that. I sing a song. So I sang. So I once I get going, if you feed me a bit now and again, and I might.
You did brilliant.
I'm trying to dry up now and again.
Well, she's delighted with that now. It's brilliant. they'll lap that up now. They'll love that.
Yeah.
They'll love that. That's all they want is all the